require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if a prescription is appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for full details. Important safety information. Subscription required.
Did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same, but is 90% cheaper? And you can get it online? Go to 4hims.com/joy, and you'll get a free medical consultation, free shipping if prescribed. Use your results. For a visit, go to 4hims.com/joy. That's FORH.com/JOY.
You by Pfizer.
When temperatures drop, COVID-19 cases may rise. So, if you test positive and are at high risk, act fast, even if your symptoms feel mild. Ask your provider if an authorized oral treatment could be right for you. To treatcovid19.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
All right, we're back here live in Arizona. Cody Gold, Alex Gold, Cody, and we are brought to you by Gun and Baker University. We'll get to Cody's random question of the day here in about 10 minutes to have fantasy football expert group NBC Sports Sunday Fall Peacock. Selling you Barry join us at some point here before we get done with the show.
Super Revolution of what's your fantasy?
We could. We explained to him that we like to. I don't know if he'll be down for. We like to add a certain type under fantasy football.
Maybe the medium one.
You know, yeah, not the most dramatic version of it, but I think something like that could work.
One with
it's been a couple weeks, hasn't it? What's the last time?
I think we did it right before one playoff one. One special playoff one because you demanded it, remember?
We did a wide edition.
Yeah, but that was it. You had said wing it on that Friday, and that would have been the last time we've done What's Your Fantasy. So, is there a better time than to bring it back for the Super Bowl? It makes perfect sense.
So we should have Matthew Berry join us at some point here in the next, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes or so. Nick is getting that all worked out for random question of the day, Cody. We know offensive front for Philadelphia, but how about the pass defense in particular? Now, some of that goes hand in hand, right? It's
sure.
the number one defense in football. Well, it'll help out your secondary drastically if getting that kind of pressure like they have consistently. Well, how have teams with top 5 pass defense performed in the Super Bowl? And in particular, when it comes to DVOA, the Eagles are the number one pass defense, all right? We don't need to go too far down the road on that. But last year, the Rams were number 3. They won the Super Bowl. In 2020, the Bucs were 5th. They won the Super Bowl. The one exception is actually Team Chiefs. That was the 2019 Super Bowl. And the San Francisco 49ers, who had pass defense. 2015 was another example of a
all-time
great defense. So those were the other times. Only once has a top 5 pass defense been in the Super Bowl and lost. Since we've been keeping track, and they've been keeping track of DVOA, which tells you something. Now, Kansas City offensively is the number 1 scoring offense in football. Although this,
when I look at those defenses, though, man, most part goal, I was like top end. Some of that list you just gave me. Honestly, aren't we pointing out that Mahomes just? I thought this year in particular, Alex, I really did. This year in particular, I thought we, to the point that we felt comfortable that the Chiefs' defense. I'm pretty sure we had that conversation once on the show. Oh, they're the number 1 rated defense this year? The number 2 per game? I don't care. Like, look at just this season. Right? They've scoring defenses in the NFL across the board, and we know that. And they scored 33 points per game against them. I know that they didn't get as many against Cincinnati both times since scoring the NFL, or they came up a little bit short at Buffalo against regular season. They dropped 44 on San Francisco. They scored against elite defenses. They always score against elite defenses. That's a pretty common across the board. I don't know that number 1 DVOA defense is enough to scare me. I'm more scared than the pass defense that you gave me there.
Yeah, I think they tie together a little bit, though, because
that's how they're able to be the number 1 pass defense. Sure.
Because I know they have some playmakers, no doubt, in their secondary, but I think a lot of their success has been with the pass rush getting home so frequently that you're not having a ton of time. So if you talk the important offensive line again for Kansas City,
of course,
this actually goes hand in hand with that. If they're somehow able to get Holmes action and better protection, what other teams have given, will have more pressure on those in this Philadelphia.
Well, I think that look, can't think you'd be like, hey, are all these rookie corners this good? or they were the number 2 sack team in the NFL, and that's helped cover their ass a little? And the answer is, of course, it's helped cover them a little, Gold, right? We know that. I guess I feel like I'm underselling it, so I'm sure somebody in Philadelphia would be like, you're not taking this defense serious enough. Here's the thing. They're the number 1 pass DVOA in the league. Pass rush is very good. But they have problems defensively. I can see their problems. And I go back to the thing said on Friday. They haven't played anybody. Oh, really? On Friday, the best quarterback they played is Trevor Lawrence. Yeah, you kind of expect you to have the number 1 pass defense.
Rodgers for a half.
Yeah, kind of expect you to have the number 1 pass defense in the NFL. If those are the best quarterbacks, if you're facing Daniel Jones, but that's kind of what you're supposed to do against that team.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I expect them to be, but I
during their talent, yeah, I do.
If you're a playoff team and you pretty much from start to finish, Philadelphia was viewed as the best team for a lot of people in football. You know, it was either Philadelphia, Kansas City for a little bit, Cincinnati got up there, Buffalo. I mean, those were teams that throughout the season. But on the NFC side, Philadelphia was always viewed, other than the Niners towards the end of the season, but they were still dealing with a third-string versus Jalen Hurts, who, let's not kid ourselves, even though we all know we're going to catch our Mahomes MVP tickets on Thursday night at the NFL. Jalen's prior to the injury, there was a real Jalen Hurts was going to win that award.
On that list, the one you gave me, the Rams from 2020, Niners in 2019, Broncos in 2015, and Bucs in 2015. How many of those defenses do Philadelphia is better than? Current defense.
I'll tell you, I think comparisons to 2015 Broncos don't fit, so they're not better than the 2015.
They're not better than the
Broncos
2013 Seahawks. That was one of the great defenses ever, too.
I think it's more in line with what you saw from the 2020 Bucs team or the 21 last year Rams.
Remember, that Bucs team was also at the top of the league in sacks. They also had 5 guys who could get to the quarterback. They also had playmakers.
And I know the offensive line.
No, I know.
I mean, that's why you're similar to. I would argue that's one of them.
I know that, and I understand that, but again, that game, it's like, I don't know, man. It's like an anomaly in its own little special world to me. I know what happened in that game. It had nothing to do with the pass DVOA. That game was, they had nobody on offensive line, and they got murdered.
I'm with you, but don't you think pass defense success of it can also be in whether or not you guys up front or get pressure?
Yes, but not in this game.
Okay.
Not that game. I know that I'm just trying to, like, throw away a game for singular reason why I got their ass. But, man, if there was ever a game where you're like, this is what happened, that's what happened there. Hell, I don't even like talking about that game. We're here at Radio Row. These are in their 3rd Super Bowl. I don't even want to talk about this round.
You've just gone with the men in black.
I just want to
wiped it clean.
You know what? Especially honestly, if they win this one. If they win this one, I don't want to ever think it's like the Breland speaks for you. I don't want to ever talk about that dump again. I don't want to ever have to think about it. I don't want to have a conversation about it. I don't want to bring it up ever again. I just want to ignore it for the rest of time. It seems way easier.
Get to Cody's random question coming up in about 20 minutes now, as we're excited here from Radio. Running us on the side from Sunday Night Football, of course, NBC Sports, Peacock, New York Times best-selling author of Fantasy Life. You're also the founder of the Fantasy Life app as well. Matthew, it's great to have you on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Go Chiefs.
Well, so we normally during the season we do What's Your Fantasy, where you're allowed to ask fantasy questions, but also any other fantasy related.
Sure.
We don't really particularly want to, but it has certain music, and we don't want to throw you off. So
he doesn't have headphones
on. You can't hear it anyway.
Well, it's fine. You don't want to.
We would describe it as need some headphones on, but it's 70s porno music. It's
fair. I know what that is.
He actually, you described it to him, and he pushed the headphones further away. Like
yeah,
he's
I don't
not
need
going
to
do
hear
this
that.
to
I got
himself.
that. I got that's fine. Yeah.
We the biggest conversation we've had on this show, and I'm always curious, any fantasy related, anyone's perception. Are we allowed to have a conversation about a modern dynasty if the Chiefs win a second Super Bowl now?
If they win today, if they win on Sunday, I think absolutely. Yeah.
I don't think it has to be 3. To me, it's like the run. Run is what we're talking about.
I mean,
and there's been one dynasty. It's the Patriots.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, it's certainly on the way. I think they need to win to talk about this, because otherwise, then it's just like, if it's not, then then they're sort of like a slight better version of Bills, right? They're just always good, always competitive. Can't get, and I'm talking Bills like Jim Kelly Bills, not the current Bills.
Although kind of applies to this.
Yeah, a little bit, right? I mean, there too, and the Bengals, Bengals next year, like they're sort of on their way, right? I mean, they lost the Super Bowl last year. The Chiefs this year, they've got all those guys on rookie deals. Like at some point, they're going to have to, start paying all those guys. So their window is now. But look, as long as the Chiefs have Andy from home, the expectation is they're going to have both guys for quite some time. They'll always be in conversation.
I think now I think about it from even going into it, I'd ask the same question, be like,
it is. It's as a fantasy analyst, it's maddening because Andy's offense are always so good and they involve so many players. But,
the top scoring team in the NFL.
Top scoring in the NFL, but yeah, it's, in terms of fantasy football options, it's very because they spread the ball around so much. Although Jerick McKinnon was a fantasy football MVP down the stretch, he was a top 2 running back down during the fantasy playoffs. McKinnon just had an absolute monster season, and a lot of people in the fantasy leagues, including me. I wanted that I had McKinnon in, and I had him in a lot of leagues, and in Juju there in the middle of the season, just a nice stretch there. So there were splashes, but really Mahomes and Kelsey and Mahomes.
We're talking to Matthew Berry here live at Arizona on Radio Row. It's Cody and Gold on 610 Sports Radio. You look at Sunday's game though, and people are going to have player props they're going to key in on. How do you see the Chiefs going up against the defense we just got discussing that's top 5 defense in football? We know about sack numbers. What do you think maybe can benefit the most if you're the Chiefs at Philadelphia?
Well, I mean, you guys tell me. Juju going to play? Kadarius going to play?
So I feel Tony is. Juju, I'm not as sure about.
I mean, so to me, I think those guys, if at least one of those guys, I think those guys are key. But Aaron Slayer's so good on the corners. Where you attack Philadelphia, I think, is the middle of the field, right? And so obviously Kelsey's going to be a big part, but Kelsey's going to draw a lot of attention. So whether it's or 12, you see some Noah Gray and whatever, but I think it's going to be that stuff. I think it's going to be middle of the field stuff. I think hopefully they have a specific package for Kadarius Toney. I think one of the things that was really surprising to me, I'd love you guys because you're there every day. You're talking to the coaches and you're focused on this in a way that I can't be being local. Is using Pacheco in this game last week was so surprising to me because McKinnon. One of the things we talked about on my show. I want to talk about the running game here for a second. One of the things we talked about on my show throughout the year and especially McKinnon started towards the end of the year having his run was McKinnon was such a big part of the playoff last year.
Yeah,
and I said, and maybe he's a guy that's dealt with injuries. Ease McKinnon into it. We know we've full aspirations. We hope to be, playing in the middle of February. So we're going to ease McKinnon into it, and we'll start using him down the stretch more and more and more. And obviously, the injury to CEH helped open up more opportunity for McKinnon as well. Then, using Pacheco as much and not McKinnon when everyone went down last week was king to me. Do you think McKinnon was secretly hurt? Do you think it was just a matter of
No, they use McKinnon to blow him.
Trust him in pass pro more.
Yeah. Well, and that was his primary role, especially with Patrick Mahomes' hurt ankle. What we saw both in the Jacksonville game, and it's probably more noticeable in the AFC title game, is they'll just be like, all right, Jerick, sorry, your job is dirty now. You got to go and punch these guys around. But Pacheco, nobody's seen that coming from Pacheco. He had 3 catches, maximum output in any game this season before he had 5 catches in that. And I think that's probably what threw him off. You get aggressive, and they're like, oh, they won't throw to Pacheco. You're like, but his ankle's hurt. Or still check it down, and I don't think teams prepared for that.
No, they certainly didn't. And Pacheco had just a monster game in the AFC title game, and so it's interesting just in terms of player props. And look, numbers are in terms of the lines. Both guys are fairly close for Pacheco and McKinnon. Whether was that a one-game thing because of the ankle, or is that is now Pacheco going to be an option in this offense, especially if Juju can't go and Lichtman can't go either?
Yeah, the last, maybe 30 minutes so was officially placed on I. Definitely. No, it just happened. No, okay. and CEH actually was activated. And Kansas City, but he's kind of nobody really wants him having any part of this offense right now whatsoever. So I'm hoping that he just activated because at this point, who else are you going to activate on offense?
Well, He might play wide receiver, depending on who else might not be.
He might, but just have him active just to be, just to have a bond. You never know. Like, again, like we saw in the title game, right? Guys get injured in the game, and you want to make sure you out there that you can trust. So that'll be interesting. I mean, but to me, in terms of how you attack them, I do think there'll be pressure. So dump off to the running backs, Tony. The thing what's shocking to me, and so BetMGM is a sponsor of my show, and so we did this on my show earlier today. Every state in the United, in terms of who's the most bet team on in that state in the Super Bowl, the only state that's picking the Chiefs is Kansas.
Right. Yeah.
Every other state is taking the Eagles, which I'm shocked of. I'm shocked about it, and I get it. The Eagles, they've got a better offensive line, and can they take advantage of the challenges the Chiefs have had in their secondary this year? But it's Andy Reid off a bye, man. Like not to be that simple, but like sometimes it comes down to that simple, and it's sort of the guy that's been there, the guy that hasn't. And with due respect to Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni, who have had an amazing season this year, the entire Eagles organization have. Like I don't know. I've picked the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs should be favored by 2 instead of the 1.5 for 2-point dogs they are at the moment. And I'm surprised that every state is taking the Eagles.
And we've kind of enjoyed it in a little bit going back to the title. Not all Mahomes have been in this kind of underdog role. He closed as favorites against Cincinnati, and we're wondering now if injury news maybe on the
flip.
Arizona State to Matthew Berry.
Real quickly, everyone, obviously, you nationally talking about Patrick Mahomes. How healthy is he? No, is he going to be able to run? Blah, all that stuff. What about Jalen Hurts, who I think is also just as
we got to see it. 2 doke games in the playoffs.
Exactly.
I don't have any idea there.
I don't know what he's talking about. Like, and 49.5 rushing yard Hurts. That's under.
What about the total then for the game? It's 50.5 or so where it sits. It's under 51.
Yeah, kind of. I do
Indoor
like
stadium and all that